Hey, I'm Jonathan, and I live in London, England.
Hey, I'm Jeff, and I live in Perth, Australia.
Together, we are Ekko and Sidetrack.
We produce music that sounds like this.
And this.
And even this. This podcast is about music, creativity, and everything in between the giant space that separates us.
Welcome to A Band Apart with Ekko and Sidetrack. This podcast is brought to you by Short Order Burger Co. If you're in Fremantle or in the city, you should go check them out. Get a hot burger and tell them Ekko and Sidetrack sent you. Use the code word SIDETRACK for 10% off at checkout, in-store only. Big up! Welcome back, listeners, to A Band Apart with Ekko and Sidetrack. It is Tuesday, the 20th of July, 2021. The time, 8:41. The weather, raining. Jeff, how are you feeling?
I have a little bit of a sore throat, but otherwise I'm okay. Actually, I'm tired, but I'm trying to get better at explaining a full feeling rather than just being, I'm good, I'm tired, that's interesting. It tastes yummy and delicious, creamy. Like, just trying to be a bit more succinct in what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So how do I feel? I feel fucking drained because I haven't been sleeping well because my brain's been ticking things over, even though I've been writing things down and doing that kind of stuff. And I worked today and the weather got me today and a bunch of things have been piling on me and I need to get them off. And exercise helped, but I don't know, I still got a bit of pile on happening in my own brain.
Maybe you need a little sabbatical from some stuff. You know, we've had a fairly... What's a good word that's not busy, but that's not also productive? What's the perfect combination of busy and productive?
Productive.
We've had a pretty productive 2 months.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like...
We finished 2 tunes.
Played 3 shows, all of which kind of bigger shows. It was all culminating to Saturday night when we supported Dimension at Metro City. Metrocity, which was a sick show. It was amazing. It was
beautiful.
A packed out Metros. We haven't played at packed out Metros for quite a long
4
time.
years.
Metros hasn't even been able to be back to full capacity since the COVID hit, and that's really, really cool.
I like your interesting
pronouncing of COVID.
Pronunciation,
yeah. You got to mispronounce words. It's fun, and it's a way to express my fun and silly personality. It was really cool to play with Rob as well. We haven't done that since... We haven't done it since the first time we played.
No, we played at Dimension Live. We played after him.
No, in Perth.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought that was quite cool. We talked about... We went out for dinner with him. And we were talking about the last time he was here.
Sorry for the slurping.
That wasn't playing at Origin. And the last time he was here, we played at High Tide.
That was the first
time he came out. That was the first time we'd probably met him in like 2014, I want to say, yeah. Maybe. Which was a cool, not a closing of a loop, but it was just a cool thing to do on the weekend. So thank you for anyone that came down to the show. We had a blast. You all looked like you had fun too. That is also probably adding to our tiredness and slight under the weatherness.
Yeah, I also think it's that thing that I want to be productive. I want to be in this room in the studio working on some music.
Yeah.
And last week we didn't work on much music, though we did because we played something brand new.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get so much, the deep work of sitting in a room and doing something gives me a real feeling of accomplishment, and I feel like I haven't done that for a little bit, even though all the other things I've accomplished.
Yeah.
And I'm just getting a bit itchy.
It's hard because, with music, with this part of our job, sometimes it feels like making music is only 50% of the job, and the other 50% is doing admin, coming up with other ideas to sell our music, or thinking about the brand, or social media, or the podcast, or songs, or set planning, or plans for the future.
Meanwhile,
and that stuff isn't as, while it's as important, it's definitely not as soul fulfilling as the actual creation and making of music.
yeah, imagine we were touring, 30 dates in the next 3 months.
It'd be very
4
difficult.
months. We'd have to have finished a bunch of music and then just be like, I'm writing laptop sketches on the plane and finish them in hotels, and
Yeah, that's what guys do.
Yeah,
And girls.
Yeah,
That's what people do.
yeah.
I wanted to ask you a question. You sent me a podcast, episode 522 of the Tim Ferriss Show, with a woman called Anne Lamott. Lamott?
Yeah.
Anne Lamott. She's a writer.
Yeah, I want to buy that book, Bird by Bird.
Bird by Bird. That's exactly what I wanted to talk to you about. Well, I wanted to talk to you about that, and I'll ask you a question about that after. I'll ask you the question that I was initially going to ask you first. She is a recovering addict, a Christian, a really interesting woman, a far left liberal feminist.
Yeah.
That swears and has these beautiful ideas on life, but it's had
Amazing turns of phrases.
Yeah, amazing turns of phrases, and she was really interesting, and she talked about being a people pleaser, and she talked about practicing extreme self-love for 3 months to try to get over her people pleasingness. I think this is just when she's starting to get into recovery for drugs and alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And people pleasing is something that both of us have highlighted in ourselves as something we do. And it is also something that might have spoken about before when we've talked about the Julia Cameron book. No, it's not Julia Cameron.
The Artist's Way is by Julia Cameron. Big Magic is by Elizabeth
Gilbert.
Yes.
Elizabeth Gilbert has talked about it before, how she practiced extreme
self-love.
Not extreme self-love. It's extreme selfish. It's not selfishness, but it's like
selflessness.
No, I don't think it's selflessness.
Focusing on yourself.
Focusing on yourself in
putting
a way
yourself
of
first.
Yeah, which she didn't do. So I wanted to ask you, do you think you're a selfish person? And can you think of any examples of when you don't put yourself first? And some examples when you do put yourself first?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm a selfish person, but I would say I'm potentially the most selfish out of the family.
Oh yeah, by a mile.
But that was but I would say that some of our family have like pretty bad boundaries and like
oh yeah.
Have been way too flexible, and so like the selfish scale is pretty low. The selfish bar is pretty low. So I would say I'm selfish. I would say I'm probably the one that yearns for the most control and wants things to be how they should.
Mm.
And as Anne Lamott said, it's funny that you bring up help and helping people and like, as a counter to being selfish, because she says that helping and offering help is just control just with a smiley face.
Mm.
And I think that was something that really struck me. I was like, whoa. And I would classify myself as a helper. I love encouraging people. I love telling people, like, that's a really good idea. You can make this happen. You can push this. I love putting people together. And maybe that is just this, like, form of control, which is in some way kind of selfish, because I want to know the outcome. I want the outcome to be what I think it should be.
I would say it's only selfish if you need the outcome to happen.
But it's not selfish.
Because you can offer advice to someone and be like, I would do it this way, or I think you should do this.
And what happens when they don't take the advice and they fuck it up?
And you go, that's fine. But I don't think many people will go, that's fine when that happens. I think a lot of people, and I would say including yourself, go, see, if you'd done it my way, that wouldn't have happened. Which I think is a little bit of a selfish thing. But if you just give some advice to someone, I think that shirt would look better, would look great in blue. And the person says, well, I'm going to get the yellow one. And then they buy the yellow one, and then you go out and they go, you know what? I hate this yellow shirt. And you go,
I would say, suck shit, you made a bad decision.
No, but if you just go, okay, no,
but do you know what? I'd also still offer another solution. If you take it off now, I reckon you can still return it. Or something like that. Like,
I was talking to a friend today who's going through some things, and I offered him some advice, and he said, you know what? I'm probably not going to do that. I said, and that is okay. And I don't need you to do it.
And that is why you will fail at life.
No, not at all. No, absolutely not. I said, that's okay. And I don't need you to do it. And whether you do it or not is not going to change how I feel about you. But I am just offering a potential different perspective. But I don't need you to follow that advice for some sort of inner validation of this is my thing. It's just me.
I don't think I ever
offering help because I have a different view to you.
Yeah. It's the classic thing. If, like, why would you be you're in a band with other people so that you get different perspectives. If you wanted to be in a band with 4 others of you, it'd be a pretty shit band because everyone would just do the one thing. Yeah. So, like, you've got to have different perspectives. I don't think it's ever a self-serving thing that I want someone to do the thing, like, or selfish kind of thing, like actively selfish, but it's kind of like, I can see this is a better decision. You should do that. And it's also so easy to tell someone this.
But if you change that in your head to, I see this is a better decision too, this is what I would do if I was in your position.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And if they don't want to do it, then I'm like, pussy. No.
It's the second time you've made that joke, which is leading to me to believe that's actually what you do.
Sometimes I do think that. Sometimes I'm like, no, you should pursue that thing. But other times I'm just offering a perspective that I think has been pretty good.
I think any perspective that isn't your own is good to listen to. But I think you're more open to listen to other people's perspectives when they come in a passive way rather than a kind of like, if you don't do my idea, you're a fucking idiot.
I don't think I've ever presented that. It's more of like this is something you can do.
Yeah.
Or this is what I would do, or like, something like that. But at the same time, I think it's showing the person has to be respected that's giving you the advice, because if you don't respect the person and they offer you advice, you're like, what? I don't care what you think. But then the same advice could come from someone whose opinion you do respect, and you could say, I'm going to give that a go.
Yeah, it's very important who gives you the seed, the idea.
So to come back to your question, do I think I'm selfish? No, I think I have better boundaries than the rest of the family. But I do think I'm as empathetic as all of you, but I'm more brazen about some of my other attitudes. And like,
what does brazen mean to you?
like brashy and like what's the word? Short, or like, fuck you, I'm just gonna do it like this, etc. or something. I don't know. I think the thing that I think it's part of the makeup of me, the competitiveness in me.
You're definitely the most competitive, Hanson.
Yeah. And I don't think I'm selfish.
Do you know anyone that is selfish? I can think of some people I know that are selfish. But are they selfish? Or do they just have a better understanding of self-love than I do?
No, but this is what connection, the self-love thing. What are you saying? Because like, you're just putting yourself first. There's putting yourself first, and there's putting yourself at the front of the line for the fucking lifeboats.
Are you?
Shout out to Billy Zane. Fuck. Yeah, you know, there's like being selfless, and there's being selfish, and things get crossed.
Yeah.
And like, but there's also being like, I'm going to put myself first and choose myself because I have most control over me, and that's who I can believe in and push, rather than not even trusting someone else, rather than being like, I'm going to lean on or need someone else, perhaps, in some respects. And whether it's need or leaning or whatever, or even, you know, people with the people-pleasing thing, it's like, I am not going to make this cake for this person, even though I know that they'd love it. I don't have time. I've been doing a bunch of other stuff. I'm going to buy a fucking Viennetta, and that's what I'm going to serve for dinner. And when that person goes, ooh, you didn't make the cake you said, I'm going to grab them by the back of the head and smash their face into the Viennetta. I'm going to go, oh yeah, I didn't. I was doing this other thing, but Viennettas are delicious.
So you practiced self-care because you didn't push yourself to make the cake.
No, I practiced boundaries by not needing to people please. You've asked one question in several different ways. You asked me about, am I a selfish person? Then we talked about people pleasing. And I think those two are related. And I'm not sure where the self-love thing...
Well, the self-love thing comes from...
masturbating in front of a mirror?
The self-love thing...
as well, that's also a form of self-love.
The self-love thing comes from... in a way, possibly a selfish place. Like... you could say... I want the biggest piece of cake for me because I'm hungry and I have had a hard day and I deserve this. And so I'm going to take the biggest cake, the biggest slice of the cake because I love myself and I deserve this. And I'm practicing self-love for myself.
I don't think that's self-love. That's selfish.
Okay. What about... I'm not going to do what you asked me to do. I'm not going to do the favor you asked me to do because that's going to push my time. It's going to fuck with my time for my day. So I'm not going to change what I'm going to do for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep doing my path, and I'm sorry, but I can't help you.
Yeah.
That's
putting yourself first.
That's self-love.
Yeah, it's
That's
a form of
good boundary practice.
Yeah.
And some people would say, if you do that all the time, some people would call you selfish.
Yeah, but yeah.
But I probably do think that person would be wrong calling that selfish. But I think my relationship with boundaries has been skewed by this exact problem. Like, is it selfish? Is it self-love? Etc. And I don't want to be selfish. And that example of Anne Lamott giving the broken fried egg, she says, my mother never gave, she always ate the broken fried egg.
Yeah.
My mother never had a full fried egg. When they all made breakfast, she would also always get the shit thing.
She grew up in an extremely codependent household.
Yeah. And I see some of that behavior in some of what I do.
Yeah, for sure.
And recognize the codependency I have in my life. And want to practice more selfishness and extreme selfishness I'd like to practice.
Extreme selfishness.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Give me an example of some extreme selfishness that you could practice this week. Jeff, I made you lunch. Actually, no, I didn't.
In fact, I threw your lunch out. No, I don't know. I don't know, but like maybe
because I don't think you mean selfish. I think you mean
I'm not doing things for myself.
Yeah, I don't think that's selfish.
Okay, so that's self-love.
Well,
so when she talks about selfishness,
yeah, I think selfish is the. Actually, you know what? Maybe that is selfish, and selfish just has a fucking negative connotation. Because the kid who doesn't want to share his toy is selfish. Yeah.
Or is he just really good at practicing self-love?
He's got great boundaries. Your 5-year-old is fantastic on that swing. He hasn't got off the whole thing for hours.
He's
got great boundaries.
Yeah, it's true. I think it kind of could be both. It's like there definitely is a negative connotation we have with the word selfish.
Yeah, but yeah, give me an example.
I don't really know. I think it's more like saying no. I'm pretty quick to say yes to people.
You are quick to say yes and commit and then go, fuck.
Yeah, and I think saying no because I don't... And instead of saying no because I fear some sort of retribution, like I've definitely say yes to some people in my life. Not because I fear retribution, but because I... such a dramatic way to say it. But because I'm like... Because their reaction when I say no is not good.
That's people pleasing.
Yes, absolutely.
That's codependence because that's relying on someone else to work out how you feel.
No, it's relying. It's allowing how someone else feels to change how I feel. I don't rely on other people to make me feel a certain way.
But that's
it's valuing someone else's. It's allowing someone else's feeling to affect my own.
It's valuing someone else's feelings over your own.
Yeah, that's codependency. How could I be more selfish?
I think the saying no thing's good.
Saying no.
I don't think you say no very often.
And do things. I've got some things planned this week that I'm doing for myself. Like I'm helping my friend move. Which is going to help me because I'm not going to the gym this week. No, I'm not doing that.
That would be a bad example. A bad example. What are you going to do?
I'm going to go out for a drink with someone, a woman. I'm going to go on a date tomorrow night.
Whoa. All right. I'm going to just bookmark that. We'll come back to it later. But do you think that's doing something for yourself?
I don't
Fuck
know.
that shit. That's just like doing something.
Is that just doing something?
So, like, that's what I mean. What are you going to do for yourself? You should book in a haircut.
Yeah, I could book in a haircut. You know what? Actually, I'm going to buy a new phone.
That's doing something for yourself, but also just doing something. But also the belief that you deserve it is the important thing. And I struggled with that when I bought a new computer.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, maybe I'll just keep using this one.
Yeah,
my computer had to fucking die, and then I was like, yeah, I need a new computer.
Even then,
I still thought about buying a secondhand computer.
Yeah, that's so strange.
Because it's like
you don't deserve nice things.
Yeah, a little bit, but which is something I'm totally working on and have been working on. But it's also like, some of that money story thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, spending $3,000 on a computer, is that the right move? $3,000 is a lot of thousands of dollars.
Meanwhile, not 2 months ago, you genuinely suggested to me spending a large portion of money on cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Possibly more than $3,000.
I think it was about $3,000. No one could have predicted the market was doing what it was doing.
Meanwhile, you use your computer for your work, our work. We need laptops.
Absolutely, yeah. So
but it's funny how you can the justification changes in your mind. Selfish things I'm going to do this week.
Computer is for me. The crypto thing was for us. I think there was a shared blame.
I guess
and
it wasn't.
Win.
It wasn't. It was like a $1,500 investment on both our behalf.
Yeah, and investing is a different kettle of fish, and I suppose investing in a computer is thing. But yeah, I definitely felt the thing. But the phone, that's a great thing. Give me one other thing you're gonna do. I reckon you should buy yourself a new pair of slacks. But sorry.
Oh, I'm going to buy a jacket.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Let's do it. The other thing is that doing things for yourself doesn't have to involve spending money on yourself.
So
that's sort of something I'm thinking. Sometimes it's nice to be like, I did something for myself. It's like you just spent money on yourself, and did you get the feels? Maybe
what I want to do. I got it.
Hit me.
I want to paint this week or do a piece of art for myself.
Yeah.
But go and get the materials, got an idea for something, and then just go and sit on a Saturday morning and do that and set aside 2 hours to do it.
Might need more than 2 hours.
It's not that big. But set aside time, like an artist date.
Give yourself the time.
Yeah, gifting yourself time.
Yeah, that's something I don't do very often. I've always got somewhere to be. I'm like, yeah, you'll have time to do this later. And that just potentially never comes.
Yeah, so I'll give myself the gift of time.
I think that's a beautiful gift and a lovely putting yourself first moment. The next question is, if what you create in that time is not what you expect to create, is it going to piss you off that you spent the time? I should not have wasted my time creating this piece of junk.
No, because I've got no expectations for what I create in that medium.
That's really good.
It's more just I like the idea of just sitting down and painting while listening to classical music. It's just relaxing.
Absolutely.
And the outcome of whatever I do when I do that is not necessarily important. It's more of what the painting represents, and it represents the time I took for myself.
Yeah.
Not something else.
I think that's a really, really important thing and a really good thing. And you can have those little time dates and time that you take for yourself by sitting going I'm going to choose to read my book. I'm going to do the thing. It doesn't have to be some monumental thing as well, I think, which is really good. And I constantly remind myself, I don't have to have everything in position. I could just pick up a piece of paper and start drawing.
Yeah.
But some of my expectations is that I did it a few times last year. I'm going to get out my easel. I'm going to stick it up. I'm going to paint this thing. But when I started doing it, when I felt when I put the energy into it, the outcome was really good. And then I realized like, whoa, I'm just going to keep doing this. I'm not going to respond to that phone call. I'm not free this afternoon. And like, you kind of just, because I think humans are extremely stretchable and they'll be pulled whichever way they allow themselves to be pulled. But when they hold space for themselves and just exist, that's very, very powerful.
I think this can be applied to a lot of things in our life.
For sure.
Like calling people, speaking to people. Things don't have to take. Not everything we do needs to take half an hour.
Absolutely.
It's like meditation. You don't need to meditate you don't have to meditate for 20 minutes because often you'll be like, I don't have 20 minutes. Meditate for fucking 30 seconds. Take 5 breaths in and 5 breaths out. You're not the fucking Dalai Lama, but you've meditated. You've taken a moment. And then the next week, do it for a minute. And then build your way up.
Yeah, I think that kind of stuff is important. And it's funny. It seems like if the thing you do for yourself is positive for yourself, it's seen as like self-love and self-care and all this kind of stuff. But if it's like negative for yourself or could be misconstrued as negative, then it could be seen as selfish. Like the person that spends 3 hours a week at the gym to stay in shape, they're like, yeah, it's really good. You're looking after yourself and you've got that self-love practice. The person that spends 10 hours a week in the gym and is embarking on like this journey of like, becoming this ripped person or whatever their goal is, some people might look at and be like, that's selfish or self-involved or something. So, and like having any hobby, it's like, as we've experienced with our music, it's like, it's cool to have a friend that makes music. When that friend can't turn up for the party because he's making music, he's like, well, what's he going to do? Why does he want to do that, man? It's like people think you're being
selfish. Interesting discussion about selflessness and selfishness.
And
shellfishness.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, our latest sponsor is Kalis Brothers in Leederville. You can get a half pound of shellfish for $24.95. Sorry, if you use the code word Ekko and Sidetrack Clam Bake. That's Ekko and Sidetrack Clam Bake only at Kalis Brothers Leederville.
Yeah, we haven't quite cracked the Freo store, but if you go into the Leederville shop and ask for Jacob or Lyle, they'll be able to sort you out. Jono, just quickly, I've got a question for you.
Sure.
If you had $100,000, what would you do with it? But you only have a week to spend it.
I have to spend it all?
You can save it, but the money is going to arrive in your account and then it's going to disappear from your account 5 days later.
So I can't save it?
You can save it. You could move it around and be like, I'm going to put this in here and whatever.
I'd buy $10,000. No,
Great answer.
Oh,
the pop filter must smell like
clams. What would I do with $10,000? $100,000.
$100,000.
I would probably save $90,000.
Okay.
And
how would you save it? Where'd you put it?
Actually, I put 80 grand. I'd put maybe 30,000 in shares.
Yep.
And 50,000 in a high interest account.
Yep.
And I'd take the remaining 20. I'd buy a whole new wardrobe.
Yep.
Maybe spend like $3,000 on clothes. Probably buy some new Vans. And then I would take, my birthday's coming up. For my birthday, I would take 32 of my friends to a nice restaurant. Just be like, it's all paid for. And that might cost a couple of grand. I'd probably also scratch a bit more of that money out and buy a car.
Jet ski?
No. I'd buy a car.
Okay.
And then I'd probably go down south.
With the jet ski?
With the jet ski. And hire a jet ski. Yeah, I don't know. It's probably a kind of boring answer. I just save it.
And now just instantly, how do you feel right now? Do you feel like a little bit excited?
Yeah, but that's what happens when you talk about the possibility of money.
Yeah, money's a weird thing. Like,
that's why talking about what would you do if you won $1 billion is always a fun conversation to have.
Because everyone gets a little bit like, ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd do this. And they start, it's an interesting thing. Like, money, I think, is like the only thing that does that.
Sets off your dopamine.
Yeah.
It releases dopamine in your mind.
Yeah. And as I heard on a podcast today, like, dopamine is not the hormone of good. It's the hormone of more.
Yeah.
So, like, when you do something, you feel like you want more of that thing.
I need more money right now. Let's go to the casino. I thought you were going to tell me you had just put $100,000 in my bank account. Also, what a boring answer to being asked $100,000.
No, you're being thoughtful. And
I wish I could be. Maybe if holidays were more of an easy thing, I would say I wouldn't even go on a big holiday. I'd be like, sick, I've got money for Europe next year.
But that's the thing, Jonathan. This all comes back to that self-love thing. You've been talking about self-love, and I just offered you $100,000, and you were like, I'm going to spend a shitload of money on other people, maybe $3,000 on myself. I'm going to put some money away for future Jono, but not spend money on now Jono.
I'd probably get a massage. You know what? I'd get a massage and I'd get a fucking hand job while I got that massage. And I wouldn't balk at the extra $45 they charged me.
You could do that right now.
Yeah, I know.
I'll drop you at a spot.
I'd pay an extra. I wouldn't even want that. I'd buy a sauna. I'd think about buying a sauna.
Infrared sauna, yeah. It's definitely.
You know what I'd do? I might get a gym membership at a gym that had a sauna. No, that's the thing.
These things are all achievable. I'm just trying to poke you.
I'm trying to think of like something that's truly for myself.
It's hard.
I'd buy a new laptop.
Yep.
I'd buy some film for my film camera. I'd buy new bed sheets.
That's what.
But again, like I'm gonna buy new bed sheets this week. Yeah. Like this is just so practical and like, I'm just gonna get this stuff anyway.
But that's why it is hard.
I think of something big.
But
what's like a
buy yourself a nice car.
Yeah, I might buy myself like a Honda Civic.
Spend $70,000 on a car.
No, that would be such a fucking waste of money. In my opinion.
At this stage,
I don't need to buy a $70,000 car.
No.
I'd be tempted to buy like an old BMW.
Oh, I'd love an old BMW.
And set aside like, here's $25,000-$30,000, and then here's $20,000 for the upkeep.
Yeah, that'd be a dope move. Like an M3 or an M4, whichever.
Old like 90s one, you know.
The square one.
The square one.
Yeah, I think that might be like 93 or like 80.
Yeah,
like 80s. It's some fucking sick. Yeah, I do like the old BMWs.
Yeah,
so to see them rolling around. But yeah, I suppose the thing I was trying to like extract from asking you that is how difficult. You didn't just have a selfish answer. You didn't just be like, man, I would fucking do this. And a lot of people don't, because a lot of people try and think of the frugal and also the like, what could I help? How could I help people with or whatever? But imagine that money is time and how much time you spend on yourself or spend on others. And I think that's kind of an interesting thing. I should do that as well.
I knew this was coming. This was like an Instagram video I watched the other day.
Is it?
Yeah, someone was like, imagine if someone put $87,000 in your bank account every day. Would you spend it? Because you've got $87,000 the next day as well.
Yeah.
And imagine if those 87,000 things were seconds. Don't waste your life.
Well, I suppose, that's a similar point. I didn't know I was going to get there, but the selfish, selfless, and doing things for yourself is an interesting thing. And thinking of the way that you'd spend fake money is an interesting illustration. Because if you ask me, I would give a very similar answer. I don't think I have things off the top of my head. I'd be pretty practical with it. And I would struggle a little bit, and I would want to do things for other people, and I'd want to, I couldn't just be like brazenly, fuck yeah. If it all had to be spent, if it was like Brewster's Millions, like all the money has to be. Is that the movie where he has to spend the money to get the fortune?
I think so.
Yeah. How would you do it?
$100,000.
$1 million. $1 million and you have to spend it. $1 million and you have to spend it in a week.
I'd buy a house in Doubleview for $1 million. I
think he has to spend way more than $1 million.
I'd buy a house. I'd buy a house for like.
You'd just buy big things, like you buy a house, buy a car,
I'd buy a house, a car, and then I'd probably buy gifts for mum, dad, and Ben and the kids. For fuck's sake. And then.
But it all had to be gone.
I'd probably just have some. Again, like buy clothes, maybe like upgrade the studio a little bit.
A little bit. Here's $30 worth of paint, Jeff. Do yourself some favor and touch up the edges there, will you? Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting point.
Save some money for a trip next year.
I'm looking forward to you doing some things for yourself this week so you can feel that you deserve it, because you do. You've worked hard. We've worked hard. And I think something we struggle with is celebrating the small things and the big things.
Yeah. We should celebrate.
We should.
Because we had a great show on the weekend. We did amazing. Reflect. Yeah. Reflect and celebrate.
Yeah.
So with that, listener, we bid you adieu and say, if there's any little wins you had this week, celebrate them. Whether it's with a loved one, or a friend, or a co-worker, or a neighbor, or just by yourself.
I also think that it's not selfish to put yourself first.
No.
Remember that. And you're allowed to say no to things, and you're allowed to say yes to yourself.
Yeah, saying yes to yourself. Every time you say no to yourself, make sure you combat it with a yes.
Well, every time you say yes to something else, you're saying no to something else. Like by choosing to do something that's not essential, you're saying it's more essential than something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting when you start thinking about the way you spend your time.
The hierarchy of
of
what you do with your time.
Yeah, and how you and who you give it to, and how
willing you are to give it up. Who you're going to say yes to quicker,
and what are you going to say yes to?
Yeah.
It's something to ponder. Jonathan, as always, you're a great job. Sorry, you've done a great job. All right, man. I love you.
I love you too, buddy. Peace out.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you. I love you.
I love you.
I love you. I love you.
I love you.
And I'll say it to yourself.
I told myself I loved myself in the mirror today.
That's very good practice.
I didn't even count the amount of times, but I just told myself, and I felt like I had a better day for it.
That's great. It's important.
My fucking voice is croaky from yelling last week and yelling at the rave.
A solid rasp. Well, I think you should do something about it. Treat yourself to some soothers.
Oh, I did. I stole some of your soothers today.
I saw. But, Jonathan, I'll let you have them.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you.
Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. Make sure you subscribe to us on your podcast app and keep up to date with all new episodes. They're going to be coming out once a week. We are Ekko and Sidetrack on Facebook and Instagram. On Twitter, we are Ekko Sidetrack. Go listen to our music on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, YouTube, or wherever your ears consume happiness. Lots of love, people.